about them kind of games.
Cool.
If you wouldn't mind keeping an eye on this, because this has not been the best.
What's the power say so far?
It doesn't give you an indication, so just keep an eye. Just every now and then, just keep an eye that hasn't just turned off.
Okay.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, this is kind of an interview, kind of not.
Yeah,
It's more of an informal chat.
Exactly.
I like those sort of things.
Right.
So, hi, I'm Noaksey, and this is Brjánn from the SteamWorld Heist, or the SteamWorld franchise. You may have seen some of the videos I've been outputting recently on the SteamWorld Dig, and this is the guy behind it all. So, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. So, we've got a few questions in relation to sort of the beginnings of image and form. Where it came from, what you sort of see in the next sort of 5 to 10 years. Then I've got a few questions around the event today at the EGX where we're at, and some other questions that you don't have to answer, but it's just out of interest, really.
Alright, that sounds fair enough.
So tell me a bit about the beginning of Image Form.
Yeah. So Image and Form was, I formed it in 1997, and it was basically because, yeah, maybe I should take it from the beginning. It was like this. When I was in my early 20s, I just didn't know what to do with my life. I had really excellent grades from high school, but I didn't know what to do. So I just decided to travel around the world a bit, and obviously on a shoestring budget, having no money. And I ended up close to Japan, and didn't have the money to go over, and I really wanted to go. People were telling me that, sure, you can just go to Japan and work as an English teacher. So I decided to do that when I was 21. So I got over there, and I couldn't find a job as an English teacher since I'm not a native English speaker. So I ended up on a total banana peel. I sort of slid into multimedia development there in the early 90s, and so for 6 years I worked in Japan with that, and then I moved to the US for a couple of years, and then I moved back home and started the company. And it was a multimedia company at first, and then the web came along, so it turned into a web company. And then we were asked to sort of save a drowning kids game, like where the developer had just gone bust, and the publisher was just asking for help to sort of do the final things on it, just to make the game work. And it was just so gratifying to work with something that wasn't like a long project. It was, and seeing immediately the changes that he did to it. So yeah, that's when I sort of decided that, okay, gaming has to become sort of our main thing in the office. And then we got into that. So we were sort of a developer hired by publishers to sort of make games for them. And so we were totally anonymous until 2008-9 when the App Store was released, when you could start buying games now.
Yeah.
By that time, we had made like more than 30 CD-ROM productions with edutainment kids games. And while it was good money, it was creatively, it was pure starvation, really. It was really hard to sort of motivate yourself for the next time or so.
Yeah.
And so this was sort of, it was a big risk because we had never made our own game where that was an image and form game, like that we would publish ourselves. So we did that, just took the leap of faith and made our first games. And they were quite shitty. But the App Store was sort of, it was a nice place to start with that, because you could make smaller games, like that weren't huge efforts, so they wouldn't have to cost that much, but you could still get them out there fairly easily. And then in 2010, Nintendo released the DSi, and so we decided that, okay, if we're not going to be entirely a mobile developer, let's just try it out to see what that is like, because that still didn't involve like physical production of discs and knowing people in the retail chains and so on. So this sounds fairly easy. Let's try it out. And so we did it. And the DSiWare store, I don't know if you ever visited the DSiWare store, but it was a terrible little shop with there weren't that many games on there, but it was still impossible to find, to sort of browse that shop.
Yeah, it was just like pages of like small amounts of grouped together.
Yeah, exactly, right. So we thought this is never going to work, but surprisingly, like while we were working on other mobile stuff, we noticed that that game fairly quickly paid for itself actually. So it sort of, we had gone break even with that game, and we had done just precious little PR marketing because we didn't know who to talk to, so we knew nobody.
Yeah.
And so we always had that sort of in the back pocket. If mobile is ever going to turn sour on us, then we can probably talk to Nintendo with their future platforms and so on. So the year after that game, in 2011, we released a mobile game called Anthill, which is actually really a good game, and it was super popular on the App Store for 72 hours, and then it sort of went just almost straight to zero immediately, and we were like the slow people we are. We were sort of caught off guard, and I was sitting writing long interview answers and so on, and then all of a sudden it was gone. So we thought, this is really hard. And then the App Store was sort of changing. It was going from paid, like predominantly, and then into free to play.
Yeah.
And we were sort of watching that with horror because we realized that we don't understand this free to play model. It sort of entails not making very deep games, or at least it was like that at the time. It was sort of quite shallow gaming experiences, and it was, it looked pretty cynical. Like there were a lot of free-to-play titles that sort of showcased something that we didn't really want to be part of. Yeah, I don't need to sound snobbish about it. It's really that we, first and foremost, we didn't understand how do we make games that sort of utilize that sort of loop that sort of always is tapping on the shoulders so you can pay more for it.
Yeah.
And we also felt that we would rather make games that are a little bit deeper. That sounds very snobbish, and I'm sorry for it, but
no, it really doesn't, and I'll explain why to me it doesn't. I find that the free-to-play franchise, and especially games that kind of go that route, are restricting players from content because they want to make a profit.
exactly.
And whereas with the image and form games I've played today, you give the full content at the price that is worth it. And the player can play as much as they want, as little as they want, and they're not penalised for that. Where in the free-to-play franchise area, you can only do better in the game, or you can only get further on, or you can only get the next level if you pay a premium, if you pay this.
Right.
And I just find that a bit greedy.
I agree with you. So I think we're not going to change. Right? So then, like, while we were debating this, where are we going to go next after Anthill? Like in 2012, we sort of slid back into work for hire while we were sort of deciding what to come up with. Just a month into that first work for hire project, then we were reminded why we're not doing that anymore. It was working together with a publisher can be extremely fruitful, I think. If you're working together with the right publisher.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so we said, okay, let's finish this project and never look back. I mean, if we don't make it, then at least we tried doing something that we wanted to.
Yeah.
And And so in 2012 we started making a game called SteamWorld Dig for the Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah. Make sure you give her.
And we spent, like, by our standards, an enormous amount of time on the game. And when we were done with it, we didn't know if the game was bad or mediocre or decent or good.
Yeah.
We were just so close to the development the whole time that when it was done, it was just, it's finished. Ship it off. Let's.
Off it goes.
Yeah, it's like, and while it was in launch check with Nintendo, there's like a month where they're approving of the game. They're playing through, just making sure that it doesn't contain bugs and so on.
Yeah.
We sat and talked about, okay, what are we doing next? And we decided that we've borrowed the equivalent of the gross national product of a smaller African country to finish this game, SteamWorld Dig, and it's so risky. I was like,
Yeah.
it's like, yes, it's what we want to do, but can we afford to do this?
Yeah.
So for the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start now making 2 smaller games in parallel. So we'll divide up the team, about 4 or 5 people in each team, and then we'll make 2 different games, 2 separate ones, and then we have sort of more revenue streams from those games. So we started on that, and then when we had just got like a month into both of those games, SteamWorld Dig was released on the 3DS. And to our immense surprise, it was received extremely well. It reviewed very, very well, and we were selling really well. And we weren't prepared for that. But we were sort of, I was freaking out at the time because I was determined that we were not going to sort of, that I personally wasn't going to, what do you call it, when you drop the ball, like I did with Antil. It's like it felt like we had such a short time to sort of
React to it.
And I just said it's never going to happen again. And so it was a worldwide release. So I was talking to journalists in the US in the afternoon, and then the Australian journalists got online, and then the Europeans in the morning, and then back to the Americans and so on. So at the beginning I was sleeping in the office just a few minutes here and there until my wife just slapped me around and said, "This is not, you can't do it like this." I said, what do you think you're doing?"
Yeah.
But oddly enough, the big difference in the platforms showed there. It's like the coverage didn't taper off. Like we were still talking to journalists, and we were starting to sort of amass a bit of a following as well.
Yeah.
People who were talking to us over Twitter and Facebook and email the whole time, and it just continued. And the sales weren't like that at all. I mean, yeah, if this is like on the App Store, I mean, it was like this from the beginning on the eShop.
Yeah.
But it sort of just refused to let go. It was just very steady.
Stay there.
Yeah. So this is amazing. Imagine if we can keep it like this. The sales are steady, and we're getting all this positive feedback the whole time. Let's just see if we can sort of extend this, because SteamWorld Dig is doing so well on 3DS. Maybe we can use that as sort of a ticket into other platforms as well.
Yeah.
So we sent an email to Valve, and this is just, SteamWorld Dig had been out for 2 weeks or something, and we sent an email to Valve saying, we have this game called SteamWorld Dig, it's reviewing very well, and we would really like to have it on Steam as well.
Yeah.
And if you give us the go-ahead, we'll start developing the high-definition version of the game. And I got an email back with just a very short sentence, said, "I've created a game idea for SteamWorld Dig, period." And I said, and I received it in the morning, and like was one of the sweatiest days of my life, where I'm just waiting for these Americans to sort of get back online to answer the questions like, what does that mean? what does that entail? And it's like, are we on green light now? Really? That's fantastic. So that was my question. Like, what does it mean? Are we in green light, on green light? And they said, no, the game is not on green light. Period. And then
really short kind of.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm a super rookie. But what does it translate into? It's like, no, your game is on Steam. Just make your game, and as soon as you're done, you can release it on Steam. You don't have to stand in line on green light. So we were just amazed by that. But it also meant that then we had to sort of immediately break off those two smaller games that we were working on and get into just reworking the game. So we would work like on HD.
Yeah.
So that was what we were doing for the next couple of months, and I was sort of relieved at that point because Steam did was just continuing to review really well, and we were getting so much positive feedback, and people were starting to ask us, like, so what are you up to next?
Yeah.
And it would have been so terrible to say, yeah, we're coming up with two smaller efforts that are not going to be as interesting. How is that? It's like, I was sort of like, guys, we really need to sit down and come up with something on a grander scale here.
Yeah.
And which was exactly the opposite of what we had just decided to do. We had decided to make more smaller, faster games so that we could put out more games. But all of a sudden, I really wanted to have this bigger experience, like a worthy follow-up to a successful game.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be like a recording artist who has like a fantastic debut album, and then if the second album isn't as interesting or great, they're just like they're done. I mean, it's really hard for them to sort of make the third record interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess, right? It's like, but so while we were making while we were working on the report for Steam Will Dig to Steam first, we were spending a lot of lunch hours just talking about what we should do and stuff. And at that point, a lot of the guys and girls in the office, they were playing XCOM, and they were really taken by it. They thought it was a really brilliant game. And then someone just said, it's like, wouldn't it be cool if we made a sort of a 2D XCOM game? And someone immediately says, yeah, that's a great idea. And someone says, yeah, but how are we going to solve this and this and this? I mean, it doesn't really work, does it? And someone else would say, yeah, but this could be done. And actually, in fact, like a 2D turn-based combat game could actually be more interesting than a 3D one because of blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then it's like blah 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 blah. And suddenly there's a game design document for a game called SteamWorld Heist. So so we started making that at the end of 2013. We sort of took the first baby steps with that game. This game. So, and now, like, it's almost 2 years later, and we've had Steam Will Dig has been really good to us in terms of just steady income, so that we've been able to sort of focus on this game instead of having to break off to do some work for hire here and there, or like we've been able to focus on this game, and I'm highly unbiased, of course, so I can say that it's one of the most interesting games that have ever been made. Yeah.
Of course. So unbiased of you.
Yeah, very unbiased.
So, with SteamWorld Heist impending, what's your plans after that? Are you going to see how it reacts in the industry, see how it plans out, and then make a decision, or do you have any sort of brainchilds that you're playing with at the moment?
Yeah, well, I think obviously if you sort of have 2 years to work on like that one title. I mean, obviously during this time we've been porting SteamWorld Dig to other platforms and so on. But with so much time, you sort of inevitably you come up with ideas for new games and so on. So I think it's safe to say that we have a few SteamWorld games up our sleeves.
Yeah, I must admit, in the SteamWorld universe,
Yeah.
I'll call it the universe,
Yeah.
has been very, very unique and interesting for me. And one of the reasons why when I started playing the game, I couldn't put it down. I had to play the whole thing from start to finish, once in. I just couldn't put it down. It was just...
I bet your wife was really happy about that.
No. Moving swiftly on with that. So, in regards to EGX, where we are right now, has there been any development teams or any title that's piqued your interest so far?
Several, I would say. And that's the thing that I like about EGX, that everything is sort of in the same hole. And like on a philosophical level or some kind of level, it sort of levels the play field. If you don't have like the shiny, like go into this hall to play only these games. Like all of the games are here. It's just as noisy everywhere in this hall.
Yeah.
So, and there's a tremendous selection of indie games. And it sounds pretentious, but I think it's more interesting to look at what the indies are coming up with. It's not that I think that all indie developers are in any way better than the bigger developers and publishers. But the ideas have to be so interesting when you don't have the resources. Like if you're like a one-man or like a 5-man team, every single person is so important in that team, and you know that they somehow they have to sustain themselves while making this game.
Yeah.
So they're not taking it lightly. They're not like a small cog in a huge machine. It's like they're putting their hearts and souls into it. And so, looking at some of the games here at EGX, I'm really impressed, I should say. There are a couple of I'll have to apologize to a lot of developers later because I think a lot of games are really interesting.
Yeah.
But I saw a Polish developer with a game called Light Spear, which is it's very simple, but it's just incredibly enjoyable to play. It's like where you have this spear of light that you toss into approaching enemies. It's like the mechanism is not new. It's just the delight in seeing all that blood. It's a very nice game. It's one of them. I must have played dozens of games here now over these few days. It's one of those games where when I was done with it, I was just, yes, I like this. It's very nice. It's like you look at it and you think, sort of, it's almost sad that you realize that this developer is probably not going to make a huge amount of money for this game, but hopefully he'll make enough to sort of keep him making games. Right?
Yeah.
So that's one. Another really brilliant game is a game called Mushroom 11. Did you see it?
Oh yeah.
I thought it was just it's presented so exquisite, right? And first, I mean, the developer was standing next to me. I mean, the first minute I sat there, I didn't know what to do. And then it's a very, very simple game mechanism, and I like that a lot. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
I must admit, I did sit there and I started playing it, and I was kind of experimenting with how it all kind of worked. Then the CPU kind of took over and said, "This is how it works."
Oh, right.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." I was still experimenting.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
And then when I started moving, I started getting how the fluidity of it worked and how it all kind of came together.
Right.
I just was off.
Yeah.
Doing my own little thing.
Exactly.
And it was just fun.
Yeah, enjoyable, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
And I didn't play it for very long, but like for those minutes when I played it, it was nothing really stopping me from doing exactly what I wanted or what I was supposed to do right then.
Yeah.
It's like you don't get that urge to look at your watch.
Yeah.
Where am I supposed to be right now? It's just it's very immersive.
It is. Yeah.
And games that succeed in being that, it's great because it's an experience that it's an achievement to actually be able to deliver that to a game that captures the player in that sense. You're not thinking about anything else about the game.
Yeah.
At that point. Like on the contrary, I saw this very interesting game called Riot. It's called it has an undertitle that eludes me now. The game is called Riot. It isn't made by Riot Games.
Yeah. I don't think I've actually come across it yet.
I'm sure there's lawsuits coming up there. But the game is called Riot. It's EGX. So you either play the cops or the mob, and there's Riot. Like one of the teams can win, right? And, but there was none of the devs or publishers were there at the moment, and I couldn't figure out how the game worked. So you sit there and you're looking at this very interesting sort of premise for a game, and you don't understand what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I turned to the guy sitting next to me. I said, "Excuse me, could you help me out?" And he says, "I have no fucking clue how this game works. Yeah, how this game works. I'm sorry."
Jesus.
So yeah, it's. I think when a game is interesting like that, it's great when a game can sort of handhold you like the very first baby steps, like you have with Mushroom 11. Right.
There is a time and place to kind of be handheld.
Yeah, yeah.
And if there is a complex mechanism to the game, that's when it's kind of required.
Yeah.
When there is simplicity to the mechanism, it doesn't need to be happening.
Exactly.
And if a game can be picked up and played instinctively almost, you're onto a good game.
Right.
That's what I believe, and that's why one of the reasons I couldn't put it down, Teamwork Dig. Because the premise is exactly in its name. You know, you dig and you sell scrap and you upgrade and you dig more. And you think to yourself, that sounds like the most simplistic,
boring, mundane thing you could ever do, yeah.
But it's not. It is astounding how addictive and how immersive you become into that game. You get to know the characters very quickly, you understand where you are and what's going on. And it was just, I couldn't not get my eyes off the game.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons I kind of couldn't leave it alone. And Mushroom 11 did that to me here as well. And there's another game that is consistently told I should be playing called Thumper. Thumper.
Alright.
Which is in the Left Field collection.
Okay, yeah.
I have been told 12 times
Really?
to play this game.
What is it then? Do you know?
I've not played it yet.
Oh, okay.
It's on my playlist.
Well, let's just
And
go over that later.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And while we're on the subject, we'll probably just wrap up on the sort of question side of it.
Sure.
For any inspiring indie developer, what would your advice be in relation to like structure, workflow, and moving on as an indie developer?
Yeah. I think there are actually a few things that you should think that you have to think about. One of the things is that when you're really small as an indie developer, you tend to, many start like making games together with friends and so on. It's a great thing because you can sort of go into it with the same mindset, with the same goal. But there's an issue there. It's like if you're really great and your friend is not as great, it can become difficult after a while. Or if you're more enthusiastic about it than your best buddy, then it sort of becomes difficult to keep it running. It's sort of what I mean is like the team is really, really, really important for the game. It's everyone has to be good at what they do, or at least have the spirits to do it. You need to sort of put your soul into it, because you're not being paid for your first game. Nobody is coming up with you, or it must happen very rarely that you present your first game to a platform owner, say Nintendo, Sony, or Microsoft, and they say, yeah, here's a huge bag of cash just to finish the game.
Yeah.
So you sort of have to do it with your heart and your soul, and then it's easy to lose your way along the way, I guess, if you're not being paid. So
Yeah.
sort of just keep at it, and that sort of requires the team to be on the same sort of. There must be an understanding. Like, this is how much effort we're going to put into this.
Yeah. So you have to be on like the same wavelength. You have to have the same spirit and energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one, and the other is never make a Me Too game. Like, try to stay clear of that. Like, you can totally be inspired by a lot of different games. We are the whole time. I mean, Steam Will Dig, for example, there's like obviously Metroid, right? I mean, it's the upgrade loop is really inspired by that, and the digging mechanism is, it's dig dug, and
That's literally the first comparison that popped in my head.
Right.
Was dig dug.
Right.
From the old Atari days.
Right. So we even stole half of the name, right? So you should, when you make your games, just make it your own. If you sit there and think it's like, yeah, we're going to make Candy Crush Blaga is this game, and it's a match 3 game, right? It's not going to work. It doesn't deserve to work. I think you can be inspired by games, but you have to make it your own.
Yeah.
And if your game idea, before you start working on it, if you feel that this is pretty weak, then just leave it. Just sort of brainstorm. Just come up with something else, right? Something that you feel is your own. Because if you make a game and someone says, yeah, this is exactly like that game, but that other game is more polished, or it already came out. What is this how you work? It's like, right. So like have a unique idea and make sure that your team members are on the same level. It's like, just because your mom says you have to sort of include your little brother in the project, you should argue with her before just bringing him in, because she thinks he should have something productive to do. Exactly. And another thing is just it can be very intimidating when you start out to go talk to journalists, for one, and platform owners. It can be very scary. Like, it's like, why would they ever want to talk to me? I don't have any games to show for it, and but I have this great game idea. Well, it's like, you want them, but they want you even more, actually.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Right.
Most definitely. Yeah.
So you should never be intimidated, and just be when you do talk to people, just be likable, be nice to everyone, right?
Absolutely.
It's a stupid piece of advice, but it's so easy to be
obnoxious.
Yeah, obnoxious or rude, or
feel like you have a privilege being in it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, don't do it. Just be nice, right? Sorry, it doesn't even sound like advice, right? It sounds like a parent talking to a kid, but be nice. Like, people like people who are nice.
Yeah, likable people. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So those are the basics. And if your game is good enough, there is going to be funding for the game sooner or later from one place or another. People are interested in investing in games. They might be hard to find, but they're definitely out there. So and that's the last piece of advice, I think. It's so, these things are hard enough, making an interesting game, but we're sort of limited to that in the beginning. We are game developers, we know how to make games. we don't know how to. We don't know the business end of things and so on. We sort of tend to learn that the hard way, how it's done. It's not bad. It's not a bad idea to sort of look into that from the beginning. Like how are we going to budget our work and so on. It's just make sure that it's not fizzing out or something when you and all of your friends are not in university together anyway. So, like, figure out how it should work. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Very much. So, SteamWorld Heist is coming out soon.
Soon.
Of course, you can go and play SteamWorld Dig at EGX. Is that right?
You can't play SteamWorld Dig at EGX, but you can play SteamWorld Heist at EGX in the Nintendo booth.
There we go. I know it's one way around. I wasn't quite sure which way around it was.
That's right. Now that's the way. We have a demo here now that shows the core gameplay mechanics, and it's a demo of 10-15 minutes or something, and it's just a microscopic part of the game. But I think it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Excellent. So thank you very much for everyone watching. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Dean. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. So until next time, thank you for watching.